And let's talk about Donnie McSlurpin. So I don't know why anybody now, you know what, this I will say irritated me because when I heard about this lawsuit, I was like, well, first of all, I was minding my business. I was at work. Then all of a sudden I was like on a break. So I was like, let me check my messages. All of a sudden my phone was just flooded with stuff about Donnie McSlurpin and his allegations going on that he was trying to groom this child who basically hit him up because he said he had similarities to what Donnie McSlurpin had went through, which was that he was SA'd as a child. I guess he was went through some conversion therapy or whatever. He prayed the gay away. Apparently, he ain't gay no more. So, okay, Andrew Caldwell. Anybody buying into that bullshit? So you can't. Like, I understand this might be hard for some of y'all to believe, but homosexuality is in animals. It has been around since the March of Dimes. It has been around long before speech replaced sign language. It has been around long before the Bible was written by man. So for people to sit up here and think that being a gay is a choice, being gay is an abomination, being gay is something that is taught, that is not, you're not born with it, until you can actually sit around and understand what it's like to be a homosexual. And if you don't understand it, don't speak on it because you can't sit there. Just like a lot of you straight people know, some of you women know you like dick, and some of you men know you like pussy. There are men out here who know they like dick, and there's bulldaggers out here that know they like pussy. So for people who want to sit up here and change the goalposts because, oh, for whatever reason, you can take that goalpost and shove it up your ass because I'm telling you from experience what it is. So if people want to sit and believe what they want to believe, you can believe it. Go believe it on somebody else's channel. Don't bring it over here. And that's before anybody come in with the side eye and we know the stupid ass comments. So you got a predator allegedly going around preying on this man who was in a place of vulnerability in his life because he said they share similarities. And that similarity came from when he read Donnie McSlurpin's book. Child, we only 6 days into January, and I'm having to report all this mess. First of all, we got the insurrection, the anniversary of it. Was the 5-year anniversary of the insurrection today, January 6th. I'm reporting stories on uh, Tyler Pastor Perry. Then we got Will Smith and all this other mess coming on. And it's funny, a lot of people that I was talking about regarding this story with Donnie McSlurpin, they was like, oh, I believe it. And child, I believe it too. Because let me tell you something. One of the things I've learned, just like when I always tell you with celebrities, the people that know the tea of what goes on with these famous people, hair and makeup department. A lot of people that work behind the scenes putting a lot of these artists together, they know where all the bodies is buried because they have conversations. Same thing within the church. If you really want to know the tea of what goes on with some of these pastors, these deacons, and these people that are of the cloth, speak to the church queens. Because I remember there was years ago, it was a friend of mine. The first one was one of my friends dated this guy named Marvin. I was at his house. There was a bunch of church queens there, drinking, partying, having a good old time. Then the conversation came around to Donnie McClurkin and the legendary stuff that was going on up in that church. And I was like, I don't put nothing past him and so many of these other people that be out here. So when I say stuff, I'm not just pulling stuff out my ass. I'm telling you from experience and things that people have told me. Now let's get into the story because this shit is juicy. Not juicy in a good sense, but juicy is like it's a lot. And Donnie, this is why I can't take a lot of these church people seriously because a lot of them hide behind God, a lot of them hide behind all these indoctrination, whatever, because it pulls on the heartstrings of whatever biases and stuff y'all got going on. But behind the scenes, they doing some sinister mess. Them religious extremists, the ones you see that are all up in MAGA and hiding behind Trump, the white ones, they all doing it. And then you see it with the black churches as well. This is why I don't particularly care for these mega churches. I'm not someone who is of deep religion because I grew up Roman Catholic. I pushed away from all of that because of how deep I was within growing up in religion and stuff. My parents wasn't on us as bad as so many other people, but for the most part, yeah, I went to church, went to my communion confirmation, went to Sunday school, all of that other stuff. But once I began critically thinking for myself and taking more of a spiritual path in life, I saw the grift for what it was. And all of this stuff with these mega churches is a grift, including what Donnie McClurkin is doing and is doing with the church part and is allegedly being accused of with this converting boys to try to pray the gay away while he getting off on using that as a smokescreen to push forth on his perverted ass sexcapades. So, according to NBC News, because this is the story that I saw a lot of the blogs were referencing, so I was like, let me go to the source. Donnie McClurkin, a Grammy-winning gospel singer and pastor, SA'd a young man over several years and wrote an apology email declaring himself a dirty old man, according to a new lawsuit. And of course, you see in the picture, the guy on the left is the one that's accusing Donnie McClurkin, the queen on the right, of the stuff. Giuseppe Corletto says in the lawsuit that he was struggling to reconcile his sexuality with his faith, when he sought out McClurkin in 2003. The lawsuit says Corletto, then 21, went to McClurkin's church in Long Island, New York, after reading his autobiographical book, which describes how God helped him overcome the curse of homosexuality. And here's the thing, I know a lot of people say, like, why didn't he do this, and this? And I'm like, he was 21 at the time. So when we've had this conversation on this show before, a man's frontal lobe doesn't fully develop until he's in his mid-20s. So when you're young and you're vulnerable and you're dealing with all these things in your life, you don't have an outlet of people or even a source of, like, there's nothing wrong with being gay and you're a person of color, where people tell you it's abomination, you're going to hell, as other things. Who do you have to turn to? Especially living in New York. And you would think that New York would be more progressive in regards of homosexuality. It is for white people, but not for people of color. And especially if you come from a place of you've been in the church and you have the church consistently telling you being gay is wrong. Now, at the church event, McClurkin talked about being R-worded as a child, which resonated with me because that's similar to my story. This is what Corletto said in an interview with NBC News. He said he was brought to meet with McSlurpin after the event, and the man took an immediate interest in him. At first, it was all very innocent and what I thought was mentoring, Corletto said in the interview. But he now believes he was being groomed from the start. McSlurpin began to M-word molest Corletto during Pray the Gay Away spiritual sessions, the lawsuit says, and the abuse escalated over the next several years. During this period, Corletto worked as McSlurpin's assistant and regularly traveled with him, according to the lawsuit, which means that a lot of times when you see these pastors and these people who be getting down with the get down, remember Eddie Long, where he would, there were stories that I remember was coming out, and I remember even Funky Dineva told this story, that he said he was in the elevator in Miami and it was 2 something in the morning. I think he was coming from the club or whatever the case was. And he and Eddie Long and a bunch of other butch queens was in that damn elevator and they was going up to his apartment. So a lot of time when you see these men talking about pray the gay away and homosexuality is abomination, they be the ones getting they pipes clean, this pipe and the back door pipe, by these butch queens in their little rooms, and they be calling them their assistants or whatever the case is. I'm telling y'all the tea. Regarding the secrets of the ones that be out here doing the dirt. Not, I don't like a hypocrite. I don't like people that sit up here and talk about homosexuality is wrong, but y'all be out here fucking on people of the same gender. Now, Corletto struggled to process these incidents of SA as McClurkin was both his mentor and employer, making it difficult for him to speak out about the abuse he had suffered. This is according to the lawsuit. So, yeah, it was at the end of the day, he was getting all this abuse, and he probably was like, yeah, I'm a mentor you and I'm gonna help you out. I'm gonna also give you a job. I'm gonna give you money. He said that he grew up poor, just like McClurkin, so that resonated with him. And when you're in a position where this man who you're looking up to and you feel like he's gonna change my life for the better, because of all these lies and shit that he put in the book about being delivered from the homosexual demon, which, like I told y'all before, there's no cure for that. You either suck dick or you don't. I know I'm being blunt with the mouth, but I can't. The show is called Chris Avalon Unfiltered for a reason. I don't just, I didn't call it that for my health. So, an attorney for McSlurpin, now 66, said the allegations are categorically false, saying at no time did Pastor McSlurpin engage in any form of SA, assault, or sexual coercion with Mr. Coletto, the attorney Greg Lisi said in a statement. The claims set forth in the lawsuit grossly mischaracterized their interactions, which occurred over a decade and some accusations over 2 decades ago. All these allegations are contradicted by the real facts. Well, if you saying they got real facts, you better bring that to the court of law because I'm not buying it. Now, after the alleged SA at an Niagara Falls hotel in 2013, the lawsuit says McSlurpin wrote Corletto an email apologizing for his actions, saying, I am the epitome, the actual epitome, to be frank, of a desperate, dirty old man. And he allegedly wrote in the message, according to the lawsuit, pawning and groping a young man who was just looking for a friendship and close platonic relationship with someone he wants looks to for help, guidance, and spirituality. I feel so foul, so stupid, McSlurpin added in the email, according to Corletto's lawsuit, which was filed Friday in state Supreme Court in Manhattan. So if he's got receipts, actual emails, and dates where it's not fabricated, and they could actually vouch that it's his email, oh, Donnie, you in danger, girl. Because when I went, and shout out to Mims, make it make sense over there, friend to the show. If you want to see like a full breakdown of him reading the court documents, oh bitch, definitely check out his video because he went in on a lot of the explicit detail regarding it when he was talking about like some of the actual graphic SA details where there was a little what they call a baloney wash, what we call that on the show, the little a lot of that going on without the man permission. There was forced backdoor entry on Donnie's part and a whole bunch of other things that was going on regarding that. So he broke down the full thing. I wish I had access to those court documents, but like I said, if you go and I'm all about, helping out a fellow situation. I mean, even though he probably don't even need my help, but um if I'm going to shout out somebody who really goes in and works hard or whatever, a fellow person of color who's spilling the tea, definitely check out Mim's video because he really goes in on his YouTube channel and breaks everything down if you want all the full explicit details. But let's get into the rest of the article from NBC News. Um, so the gospel singer turned pastor has won 3 Grammy Awards and sold millions of albums. His path to stardom was paved in part, of course, by this lady, Oprah goddamn Winfrey. She is the devil. I'm sorry. Oprah, you have given us some of the worst of the worst. You gave us Donnie McClurkin. You gave us Harvey Weinstein. You gave us Dr. fucking in the closet Oz, because I heard gay stories about his ass too, allegedly, and Dr. Phil. The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and Pastor Perry. You gave us that one too. Well, hyping him up and being his friend. You really sure know how to pick him. But then again, didn't Oprah come from a place of abuse too? So it all makes sense why she gravitates towards other abusers and calls them friends. Okay, so now let's so with all that being said, let's get into the rest of the tea. So they also went and said, oh yeah, they said his self-titled album was in 1996. She considered that one of her favorite things. But his childhood was brutal. McClurkin wrote in his 2001 book, Eternal Victim, Eternal Victor. Well, you still are a victim and a victimizer. That's what that book should have been called, Eternal Victim, Eternal Victimizer. That an uncle SA'd him when he was 8, which he believes caused his homosexuality. No, he probably saw the full faggotry up in you and exploited it, which is what, no shade, a lot of these perverts do. A lot of times they tend to see stuff in the children. It's kind of like The Shining. But the gays got The Shining too. I'm not saying it's right. It's not right, but it's not okay. But they see things in these children, and these perverts go and they exploit and take advantage. And then it's a passed down behavior where you have the abused becomes the abuser. And that cycle continues. And I'm not saying all of them do it because I know people who have been abused that have not abused other people or who have been R-worded and don't go around R-wording other people. So there's an exception to the rule, but 9 times out of 10, you do hear a lot of stories that the abused becomes the abuser. So, and I could definitely see this young man coming out and thinking that the same thing is like, well, am I gay because I was born gay because I've always had these feelings, or is it because I was sexually abused as a child and my body reacted in a certain way where I liked it, even though I'm too young to even understand what all this is. And people are telling me that being gay is wrong. So now I'm trying to go against it and pray the gay away. We've all have been, a lot of us, well, I'll say for me, we've all been in a place we've fought that battle where it's like, we thinking that I'm just me, whatever, whatever. And then you start hearing people calling you the F word, you're queer, you all these other derogatory words. And then it starts to be perceived as a negative. So then you go and spend a lot of your childhood trying to hide that aspect of yourself until you get old enough to realize there's nothing wrong with me. And we're going to get to that because he actually went on to say, the accuser, that that's where he found the strength because he realized that he had become comfortable enough in a space where he realized that being gay wasn't wrong. So it took him all this abuse to happen to realize that he wasn't the problem in all of this. The problem is these perverts out here who sit up in here and spew this gospel of being gay is wrong. You need to be delivered. You like pussy. You like those other things. Knowing full on well that is all a lie, it's all a grift, and you're lying to these people because you hate yourself so much. It's the same thing I get from Pastor Perry, where he going around abusing and doing all these alleged things that's coming out about him because he's so indoctrinated in that same world that Donnie McSlurpin benefits from that you can't sit and wholeheartedly just live it within your own truth. So you go around trying to make everybody else's life miserable. You go around trying to cop feels on heterosexual boys and turning them out allegedly from all the other allegations that's coming out from about Tyler Sophia Perry and all that other stuff. And so there's that. I always try to do an analyst. I always try to analyze shit when based off the information that I get. I'm like, what is the reason why they're doing why they do the things they do? The Virgo be Virgoing when I be trying to get to the bottom of stuff. So, um, Eric Hogan said a seed had been planted, a seed that would be my lot to struggle with for many years to come. He said in the book that reading scripture helped him overcome the struggle. There are many more things that need to be done to break the curse of homosexuality, but that's another book. Child, who gonna read? Well, who gonna read that? You will be surprised. Self-hating homos. That's who's gonna read it. Corletto said that or just people who are broken. I shouldn't say self-hating because it could be both self-hating and people who are just broken on the inside and is looking for some guidance, but they going into the wrong thing to try to find said guidance. So Corletto said when he read McSlurpin's book, he felt an immediate connection. They both grew up poor in New York, and he says that he too was SA'd by a relative as a young boy. Now, Corletto says he went to McSlurpin's church and followed his guidance, hoping for the same outcome, saying, quote, I truly did believe he was fully delivered by homosexuality. Corletto said in the interview, I was doing whatever they were saying to rid myself of it. Coletto said he became McSlurpin's assistant in 2004, and about 2 years passed before McSlurpin began to grope him during Pray to Gay Away sessions. On work trips, the abuse escalated to the R word, Corletto said in an interview and in his lawsuit. Also, what was the other thing that I was hearing? Because it was like, yeah, whoa, they said that there was a male model involved. I don't know if it was a male model as in like somebody like a Tyson Bedford, or it was a male model as in a prostitute. I'm starting to think the latter because I don't think it would have been like trust. But then again, we've heard stories about male models being SA'd. Remember what was it, the Abercrombie and Fitch scandal that went on, where the people over there was abusing and sex trafficking the models that were up under the contract of Abercrombie and Fitch. Child, when you start to look back on all these things that we all revered growing up and looked up to growing up, and you realize the overall scandal that was going on behind the scenes with these people in power, it's crazy when you look at all of this. And it's also sad that so yeah, there was a situation where they said that it was a male model that I guess he was trying to see if he would react a certain way, and Donnie was getting off on it and pleasuring himself. And you're sitting up here using this whole pray the gay away sessions as a way to get your rocks off, is what I was getting from the article. And when I was watching Mims's story earlier, he was breaking down the information when he was reading the the report, the legal report, I should to be specific. Okay, so then they said on a trip to California in 2007, McSlurpin also brought his then girl his beard. The lawsuit said he still forced himself on Corletto and R-worded him in a hotel room. When confronted about the incident, the lawsuit says McSlurpin told Corletto he was on medication and didn't remember anything. So now medication causes memory loss. Yeah, I cannot. Unless it was one of them drugs. Because them pastors known to do that too. McSlurpin further manipulated Corletto, blaming him for the incident and convincing him that he was the sole culpable party, the lawsuit says. As a result, plaintiff experienced intense shame and confusion. The abuse also took place at McSlurpin's house of worship, Perfecting Faith Church. The lawsuit says McSlurpin would secretly grope Corletto before going to preach, causing him to cry during the service. According to the lawsuit, and McSlurpin would then use his tears to encourage other congregants to openly express emotion. Child, I cannot. So you was out here just groping, abusing, and using your power to manipulate this young man, according to the report, and doing it in the church. But yeah, I don't put nothing past you. Be surprised the scandalous things that people be doing in that church. That if them walls could talk in some of these churches, oh, I'm sure there's many a bodies that not buried, but there's been many a bodies that have been bodying up in there. There's probably a lot of evidence on them walls and in them carpets and on the and in them pews too. Evidence as in DNA. Skeet, skeet. Now, Corletto attempted to quit his job multiple times, the lawsuit says, but McSlurpin guilted him into staying. So, for those of you going to ask, why you stuck around? Why are you coming out with old news? I'm sick of y'all when y'all say that. Y'all don't know how grooming works? We've been trying to explain it to y'all for the longest. Look, wasn't there, what was it the story that just came out with some, wasn't it a story about Will Smith and that alleged lawsuit? That one just happened months ago. Not that I believe it, but it happened months ago. That was recent, but people still probably complain about why y'all take so long to come out with the suit. So they went on to say, quote, he would always compare me to people in the Bible like Elisha and Elijah, Corletto said, referring to the prophets who had a mentor-mentee relationship. There was a lot of biblical manipulation. Well, it's all a biblical. Everything in that Bible is about manipulation, especially the way these pastors try to twist the word. I thought I was to blame, Corletto added. I was brainwashed to think that my deliverance was wrapped up in him. He finally quit in 2008 and ultimately got a job with a major airline, which is a very gay profession. But McClurkin continued to pursue him, the lawsuit says. McSlurpin's public profile grew during the period. Corletto says he was preyed on. The acclaimed gospel singer performed at the Republican Why y'all surprised? Of course, he performed at the Republican National Convention in 2004. Who was running then? I don't remember. And in 2000, was it Mitt Romney? And in 2007, he appeared at a gospel event organized by then candidate Barack Obama's presidential campaign, sparking a backlash from homosexual right groups and prompting Obama to issue a public statement saying, I strongly disagree with Reverend McClurkin's views, because the gay people were saying, you out here running on this whole campaign of being being a homosexual is wrong. It's immoral, even though you are full on argued on that panel spreading a lie. And you got Barack Obama of all people, who's supposed to be pro-gay. He wasn't at first, but then came around. And then the passing of, gay marriage and all that other stuff. And now you got this old Tide Queen up there, and the gay rights groups are bad. Meaning it was the white ones. Because were there any black gay rights groups that was protesting? Because the white ones are always real loud with their stuff, especially with their donations. So then they said Corletto says he became depressed and the S word in the years, as in unaliving yourself, in the years after the Niagara Falls hotel incident in 2013. He attempted to unalive himself. And I say, I got to edit as I'm going through this. And afterwards, he briefly returned to McSlurpin's church. I thought, well, you strayed from God. You got to go back to God. That's another thing too. Not you saying so you got to go back to God. I hope you weren't equating McSlurping as being God. Because one of the things that I don't like about these people that are in these powerful positions of like being a pastor, whatever the case is, you're not God, you're not a deity, you're not Yahweh, you're not this big, powerful being. You are flesh and blood like everybody else. God is the full entity of all things. These people are human. So let's stop putting these Donnie McSlurpins, that other fat bitch, what's her name? Kim Burrell. Let's stop putting these people on these pedestals. The TD Jakes and his swallowed. Let's stop putting all these bitches on a goddamn pedestal. Them and even the white ones, Joel Osteen, who wouldn't open his church when that whole situation happened down in Texas. That football stadium that he called a church. So stop putting these people on these pedestals. Anyway, so where was I? Oh, then they said, but he soon decided to leave the church and cut off all ties with McSlurpin. Coletto said it wasn't until last year that he came across the email McSlurpin sent after the night in Niagara Falls, saying, I know I apologize for my wrong attitude from Wednesday, but I want to apologize for all my behavior that has been wrong and put you in the wrong place. This is what McSlurpin wrote, according to the lawsuit. I have no one, and I feel it more than ever. And I was horribly wrong trying to force you into something that you were consistently saying no to, which means you literally was out here R-wording people. Because if I said no, no means no. Last I checked. Then he says, I am too old to be like this. Yes, you are too old to be a self-hating homosexual. Carletto said the email, following years of emotional and spiritual turmoil, was a source of relief, saying, I didn't make this up. I wasn't crazy. I felt vindicated in some ways. He's literally admitting to this guilt. The suit is being filed under New York City gender motivated violence protection law, which in 2022 extended the statute of limitations for plaintiffs to sue over sexual abuse allegations. The 2 year window closed in March of 2025, but parties have, in some cases, entered into what's known as tolling agreements, which extend the statute of limitations. Coletto's lawyer, Thomas Giuffra, I think that's how you say his name, said he hopes the lawsuit will provide his client with compensation, closure, and some measure of justice for what happens to him. Geoffra says, I'll call Mr. G. Mr. G says McClurkin took advantage of someone who was confused and had problems accepting his sexuality coupled with his religious beliefs. It's really very sad. Now, Coletto says he's now in a much better place. He's married and no longer feels tormented. You married to a man or a woman? We want to know. I'm thinking it's a man. Because ain't no way. Now they said, ever since I did embrace my said I guess it is a man. Ever since I did embrace my sexuality and stopped trying to change it, the weight of suicide has left me. Corletto told NBC News. Things are still a bit more complicated when it comes to his faith. He says he's tried to go to church, but has been unable to sit through an entire service. He says, I listen to praise and worship music still, and that's what I consider church. So, in many aspects, though I lost friends, community, my religion, I found myself, my family, my peace. And you want to know something? Shout out to you, because this is definitely awesome that you've come to that conclusion. That is like, you know what? At the end of the day, I had to love and accept me, even though it took the roundabout way to get there and these years of alleged abuse that I had to endure in order to come to that point. And those people that you lost, they weren't your real people to begin with, because people who truly love you for you will accept you for how you are, regardless of what people say or how they feel. If they want to throw in a faith and say you're an abomination, no, no, bitch, your mama's an abomination. That would be my go-to, because you know how I get with this mouth. I cuss everybody out. So you and finally coming to terms with who you are and embracing your sexuality is like, yeah, that weight lifts. And that's the point. So hopefully, with all of this has come out, I hope that's what those people out there who are struggling with their sexuality, that's what you take from it. And I like the idea of him saying, because that's how I felt too. It's like, I love church music. Um, I will say this. You know what I love more? I love gospel house. Someone like Floor Plan, father and daughter DJ duo, when they do their gospel house remixes of songs, whatever the case is, or just regular tracks that they do, that's where I get my feeling of church and that spiritual feeling from. And I follow more of a spiritual path, and that seems like what he's doing too. So all those things that you were taught in regards of, oh yeah, I'll be wanting to go to church and I want to feel that sense of community, whatever. You're not going to get it from a situation where these people are divisive and are all about negativity and all those other. You don't need it from that. Keep away from that, because when you realize you go in those church places, them people are all about showing out with their outfits, looking down on people like they better than, and all these other things. The people in the church do it, and the people that's on them pulpits do it. The pastors and all other stuff. So that sense of I'm better than you and judgmental. And I got family members that are evangelicals, and they are the worst and the most miserable. And I can tell you that as a fact. So I'm glad that you finally found yourself, and I hope you get the justice you deserve. Now, do I believe this stuff with Donnie McClurkin? Is the Pope Catholic? I totally believe all this other mess. And you want to know something? What I hope this also does is that it opens a Pandora's box for other people who are victims like him to come forward and tell their side of the story. Because I don't think it just started and ended with him. I'm sure there's other bodies that he has that he's done these things to. So I say all this to say, what do you guys think of this story regarding this Donnie McClurkin T? Um, with all the other things that I brought up in there about praying to get away and the experience of what it's like growing up gay and being told it's wrong and abomination, and what especially queer people of color have to deal with in when you're battling this spiritual religion and being gay, that sort of thing, and everything that goes in with that, and how there are people that will literally that are in these places of power that prey on people who are really just looking for clarity. You got these other abusers that come in and pounce on them, like smelling the shark, the blood in the water, smell it like the sharks do. So let me know what you guys think of this story in the comments down below.